On Saturday was the local shop qualifiers for Bushy Roads tournament in Telford in August for us. At my locals, the Chimera. I didn't do too bad. Out of 38 people, I came 21st. Did on average with my Pale Moon deck. So I thought I'd share my Pale Moon deck with you guys. Hopefully inspire yourself to make your own Pale Moon decks. So we'll start off with the grade 3s. We do run 4 Masked Magician Harry. The reason we run 4 is obviously because he's the main mechanic of a Magia deck, which is what you'll see is the whole core of my build. So, Generation Break 2, when he attacks, you choose a card from the soul, call it to rearguard, and this unit and that unit gets plus 3,000 power. Makes him a 14,000 on his own. It's okay if you're if you're stuck, but it does help make rear guards again. And his second skill is, during your turn, when you stride, Cannon Blast 1, Soul Charge 1, choose a unit from the soul and give that unit plus 5,000. Not a bad skill at all, really good in this build. And it's really easy to make bigger numbers that way as well. Our backup grade 3, which is 3 Flying Manticore. He has the rearguard ability. When this unit attack hits the Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, choose a unit from Soul, call it to rearguard, and that unit gets plus 2,000 power. He then has the on-ride skill when he's placed on Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, search the top 5 for a Magia card. If you've had to ride this, for example, you can search out Harry afterwards, because Harry does have the keyword Magia in his skill. So he can help fix if you need to ride Harry, but he is also good on rearguard on hit pressure. And the only reason we run 7 grade 3s is because in the past I felt I was always lacking a 5k shield, and just running 7 made more sense to me. On to the grade 2s. For me, I do run 10k attackers. I didn't find much other cards that I liked running in this deck that wouldn't cause me to deck out, for example, or cause me to run out of resources. So she's a good addition to my deck in this particular build, especially when you can make her into a 15k with Harry's skill. So she helps build those numbers. Attack choice I run is 2 of the Beast Tamer from the trial deck. She's the 12k attacker on GB1 when she attacks the Vanguard. Again, she can make nice numbers. She can get up to at least 17,000 on her own. So she's a good choice. I run 3 Darkside Princess. The reason I only run 3 rather than 4 is because if I like to do a good grade 2 game and rush my opponent, I'd rather have something that's not going to go into the soul at the end of the battle if I give it 5,000 power, because then I can abuse the stands in the deck as well. But she is good because when she attacks the Vanguard, you can give her 5,000 power, but you move it to the soul at the end of that battle. Helps build up soul quickly, helps with the grade 2 rush, and she also helps with making numbers later on in the game as well. And she is not a GB effect, which is also useful. To finish off the grade 2 lineup, we use 4 Crescent Moon Jugglers, which is the Harry support from GBT06. Chaos Blast 1, Soul Blast 1 when it's placed on rearguard. So this can be either from hand or soul with the Magia ability. If your Vanguard is Harry, you can Soul Charge 1, call a unit from the soul, and this unit and the unit called get 2,000 power. So you already make this into an 11k, again helping with those numbers, and then whatever else you've called can assist in making those bigger numbers as well. Which is what Magia is very good at. Grade 1s, I do run 2 Egg Juggler. When it's called from the soul, you can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. Helps keep hand advantage in this deck, which in my previous build I did find lacked a little bit, and it can also get rid of stuff in the soul you don't need. And even if you used to call it out with Crescent Moon Juggler, you're making this a 9k. an 8k rather, sorry. So you're already making a good 19k column there, which does help with the numbers, but you still get rid of stuff in the soul you don't want and keep that hand up. Now, I do only run 3 Masquerade Bunny. You're probably saying why not 4? It's because I wanted other options in the deck, and because you can conserve your hand because you call from the soul so often, 3 has been an ideal number because you can just start to drop whatever you need to drop for Stride if you need to go into that option. But she does search out Harry as well. Very little have I used that skill because the line also searches for Harry as well. So there's 2 ways of getting Harry out in this deck, just to be sure you get him. We run 4 Cutie Paratroopers. Reason for 4 is because, again, it hits really big numbers. When she's called out with the Magia ability, so she is your ideal first ride because you need to be able to call her out from the soul to activate this ability. Because as long as your Vanguard is Harry, you can soul charge 1 when she's called, call a unit from the soul into the same column as this and give it 5,000 power. Reason why she's a rare, because it has to be in the same column. If it wasn't, she would have been a much higher rarity, but she's still really good to assist with those numbers again. The last of the grade 1 lineup is the 4 Hoop Master Perfect Guards. The Magia Perfect Guard that came out in GBT06. What I really like about this card is, yes, it's still your standard Perfect Guard where it only blocks the Vanguard. However, she does then have this skill where you counterblast 1 and soul charge 1. If there is a copy of this in your drop zone, you can pay the costs. If you do, you call a unit from the soul. It gets 5,000 shield and intercept. This does help out against a lot of various decks. I came up with a combo for this before G Guardians came out, but it's still really helpful. And we'll go into that a bit later on. Grade 0s, we do run 4 heal triggers, standard, because G Guardians are a thing now. If you watched my previous video, you saw I used the Prankster Girl of Mirrorland as my stand, but now I run Sky High Walker because I was afraid I was using too many counterblasts in either one turn, or by the time I wanted to use bigger cards I couldn't. So this card is definitely something I needed to use, as you put him into the soul from rearguard and you can unflip a damage. And he also gives you Soul Blast fodder as well. And you can abuse the effect if you're able to call him back out as well to unflip that damage. We do run 8 critical triggers, but none of them are the Harry crit because I haven't been able to source them. So what I've done is I've just gone for another option of using Poison Juggler, where you can put him into soul from rearguard and give a rearguard or your Vanguard plus 3,000 power. Because this deck solely runs on increasing the power of the rearguards, this is a good addition to the deck because I can power those up, and if I'm able to hit a stand, it increases the pressure on my opponent to use more cards in their hand, rather than if it was the Harry crit where only the Vanguard gained power, I'd feel I'd be losing out because my rearguards could have had that additional boost. And then for the starter, we do run the Cat in High Boots. Generation Break 1, when your unit is placed on Vanguard, so this can be your grade 3 or your grade 4, this unit comes out from the soul. He's not a Forerunner, so that type of skill does make up for this. And then his second skill is when he's placed on the rearguard circle. Due to the Magia ability, you can then call out another unit from the soul to rearguard. So this again creates more combos. So ideally, this stops the use of counterblasts as well. So when you first ride, you call this guy out. Yes, you lose the power from Harry, but if you've got Paratrooper in the soul, you can call Paratrooper using his skill, soul charge 1, and give a unit 5,000 power. If you get Ellen with this, you're making 22k columns. So you're making really good numbers, which is increasing the number they have to guard with. And then another option for this is you use this starter with the Perfect Guard. So you use the Perfect Guard skill, and then you use the skill to call out the cat. From there, you call out the cat, he's now a 15k interceptor, and you get to call something else from the soul. What I tend to do is, if I have Egg Juggler in the soul, I'll increase my hand during my opponent's turn by Soul Blasting one and drawing a card, or if I feel I need to, I will get another intercept. This used to help me against Phantom Blaster Diablo, because I then met the conditions of having 2 rear guards to retire, which did help me in my trios in my championship tournament qualifier during one of my games. The unfortunate thing is I still lost that game the turn after, which was unfortunate for me, but I still did really well, and the guy was impressed that I was able to do that skill, because stupidly enough he attacked with the rear guard first. He noticed his mistake, but he still won, and fair play to him. He deserved to win that game, absolutely. And he did really well in the end, I think. I believe he came top 8. I can't remember the list off the top of my head. Moving on to strides, now that we have a 16 card G-Zone, I have more options, which really helps me out. The first is 2 Amandas from the trial deck, which is when she hits Soul Charge 1, call a unit from the soul, give it plus 2000 power. This used to be everyone's ideal ride, first ride, until Generation Break 2s came out, and then you had the options of G-Guarding, and then you had GBT06 come out. It was crazy. She's just there now to mainly flip up in the G-Zone. Alternatively, you can use Jester Dragons, but because, again, there's something I'm either struggling to find, or because I like the way the deck builds, most of the time I feel like I don't need them. And because I'm flipping stuff up in the G-Zone anyway, possibly I'm not going to be seeing him anytime soon in this deck, but you can run 2 of those as a finisher instead of this. I do run 4 Curtain Call Mephistos. This is probably one of the better G units that you can have in this set. The fact that he's a double rare really makes him a bit easier to find. I got him for such a good price as well. His skill is you flip a card up in the G-Zone, and for every card named him, you get the effect that you get 1000 power for each unit named Mephisto in the G-Zone, which is really good. If this is your first turn stride, everything can gain at least 1000, but alternatively you can choose not to flip him first time you use him and flip something else up, which I'll go into next. Oh, his second skill is also for every 2 Magia units in the G-Zone, you get to call a unit with plus 5000 power. So that is really good. The new edition, this is from Fighters Collection. What's her name again? Dreamerly Axel. That's what we'll call her. She's an interesting one because she is a Soul Blast and she is a flipper as well. Again, she doesn't need to flip herself, but you don't really necessarily get too many benefits from flipping herself. So you can flip Mephisto up instead using this. So she Soul Blast 1, flip a card up in the G-Zone phase up, choose up to 2 units from the G-Zone, from the Soul rather, not the G-Zone, and call them to rearguard with plus 4000 power. Oh wow, that's already big numbers on the rearguard swinging for you. Let's say you've called a Paratrooper, then you're adding at least another 5000 power to the column with Paratrooper. But then the other skill then kicks in, where if you have a copy of this face up in the G-Zone, for each one in the G-Zone you give the unit a skill where it's on hit you call a unit from the Soul. So genuinely you will need Soul to keep this effect going, but it adds the on hit pressure. But by already having that 4000 power and making your opponent drop to guard, and you already have the risk of stands coming up as well, she is so good in this deck. And running 3 is fine, because by the time you've got to riding the first one, you've already possibly got 2 face up if you've used Mephisto to flip everything face up. So she's so good. I know she is a Generation Break 2, but it's easy to get across these days. I do run a tack of 1 Blizzard, We all know what he does by now. It's Counterblast 1. When he attacks, flip a card up in the G zone. For each card in the G zone, he gets 5,000 power. I probably use this if I feel like I need GB2 faster, or if I need to do bigger numbers with the Vanguard. He does assist with that, and he can be a good big number finisher as well. But overall, he's just there as a tech choice, just to add a bit of pressure in numbers. I only run one Dragon Masquerade Harry. One does seem to be the tech choice of most of the Japanese decks I've been looking at, trying to find inspiration for my own. Because he is a Generation Break 3 and a Counterblast of 2. So already there you have heavy counterblasts. Hence the stun triggers. So when he attacks, you pay the cost, and you also put one of your rear guards into the soul as well. And then you call up to 3 rear guards from the soul. And if you have 5 or more rear guards after that, you then get your opponent to choose 2 of their rear guards and put them into the soul. The only difference is theirs won't come back out, but yours will go back in. So if you're going against Angel Feathers, this is probably one of the more ideal cards to use, because you can stop them from gaining that stupid number during your attacks. While yes, you use stuns in this deck, if you go for the rear guard first with one of your rear guards, if they guard that, they've wasted guard, use this, and they have to then force something to go into the soul. So he's really good against stuff like that, and just to weaken your opponent's field, really. Royal Paladins, I found, have been hurt by this effect. He didn't like me very much when I used it against him, and he moaned at me because last time he lost in a tournament it was to my deck, and he really didn't like me when I used this against him on Saturday. But the reason it's won is because of the heavy counterblasts, and it's more of a I need to get rid of your field stuff. But overall, he is a good card. We do use G Guardians now. So the first one I use is the Metal Element Screw. When it's placed on Guardian Circle, you may ditch another card from your hand, and he gains an additional 10,000 shield, making him a 25,000 shield. The reason we do this is because sometimes, I've spoke about it before, I find I need 5k shield more, or I just need that little bit more, and he provides that shield for me, especially if something big's coming my way. And again, he can help with Diablo as well, Maelstrom, things that restrict your guard. I don't know if Idrisil is still about in the current meta, but he does help with that quite a lot. And then for the last card in this deck, and the last G Guardian, we do run 4 Furnival. The reason I run 5 G Guardians is so there's options. I couldn't think of any other Stroids to use, so that's why there's 5 G Guardians in this. And people will probably be asking, why don't you use a Dismal? It's because all my rear guards will go back anyway. I don't tend to call them from my hand unless I know they're going to be safe, or if they hit them off, I know my soul's being built up slowly later on. But this is probably one of the better cards from the new Fighters collection that is not a Cray Elemental. It suits its clan perfectly, because when it's placed on the G Guardian Circle, the Guardian Circle, you check the top 3 cards of the deck. If you put one of those cards into the soul, if a grade 1 or higher was put into the soul, he becomes a 20,000 shield. It can be good to get off unless you get 3 grade 0s. He's not so fun then, but you can put something in there that you think you might be able to call out later, give a bit of extra power to, or just feel like you need to build up the soul a little bit. Most of the time he works, but always count your triggers before you use him is probably my biggest advice I can give on him, because there was about 3 occasions where I got 3 lots of triggers every time I use this, and it was quite sad for me. But he still works really well in the deck. He builds the soul up so easily without the need of actual soul charging, because it's specific. But anyway guys, this is the deck profile of my championship deck. This will more than likely be my trios deck as well. Maybe a few more tweaks along the way. Thank you guys for joining me for this deck profile. Comment down below what other deck profiles you want to see, and I'll see if I can make them happen. Also comment if you want to make any suggestions how I can make this a bit better, and anything else you may think of, or if you want to try the deck out yourself, comment below and tell me how it goes. Anyway guys, thank you for joining.